And now we take our latest look at President Trump's response to the pandemic with our White House correspondent, Yamiche Alcindor, who minutes ago left today's briefing. Yamiche, hello. We know that the president just yesterday announced that he's extending this period of social distancing. He had said he would try to end it in the next few weeks. Now he's saying it goes through April, the end of April. What do we know about the thinking that went into that?
Well, the president really got this information and got data from health officials who advised him that it was not wise to ease up any guidelines on April 21st, which would be Easter Sunday, which is when the president originally wanted to ease up White House guidelines. So that's going through the end of April. And what we hear really is a president who's evolving on how seriously he has been thinking of the coronavirus. Just a month ago, he was saying that a miracle would wipe away some 15 cases and that the cases would go down to zero. Now he's saying this is a very serious virus. He's also reiterating that up to 100,000 Americans could die from the virus. And he said that's a good scenario. So what we're hearing is a president who has really done a 180 on this here. And I should say he was asked about that just in the Rose Garden a few moments ago. He said he didn't want to panic people, and that's why he was saying that the virus was something that would go away and would be something that would be dealt with very soon. The other thing to note is that the president is also talking about testing today. He said that the testing has wrapped up. He was in the Rose Garden with a test kit that is supposed to now have a result for coronavirus for up to 5 minutes. So the president's really also stressing that the United States is doing as much as it can at this moment.
And Yamiche, we know this morning in an interview he gave, the president was questioning the states' requests for some emergency materials. What do we know about the federal government providing to the states what they're asking for?
That's right. The relationship between President Trump and the governors has gotten better over time, but the president is still in this real contentious relationship when it comes to what states need. So first, I want to play some sound for people. This was President Trump on Thursday last week talking to Sean Hannity and questioning openly whether or not governors needed the equipment that they were requesting.
I have a feeling that a lot of the numbers that are being said in some areas are just bigger than they're going to be. I don't believe you need 40,000 or 30,000 ventilators.
That was President Trump just last week. And then on Sunday, I pressed him about that and said, well, how is that going to impact your thinking? Here's what he said. You've said repeatedly that you think that some of the equipment that governors are requesting, they don't actually need. You said New York might not need 30,000. You said it on Sean Hannity's Fox News. You said that
why don't you people act? Let me ask you.
You said
why
some
don't
states.
Why don't you act in a little more positive? It's always trying to
My question to you is,
get you. And you know what? That's why nobody trusts the media anymore.
My
That's
question
why
to you
people,
is, how is that going to impact?
Excuse me, you didn't hear me. That's why you used to work for the Times and now you work for somebody else. Look, let me tell you something. Be nice. Don't
Mr.
be
President, my
threatening.
question is...
Don't be threatening. Be nice.
So that was President Trump. He was angry and lashing out a bit there. But the question of whether or not his thinking about whether or not governors actually need the equipment that they are asking for is still something that's unclear. We're not sure if the president's going to send New York the 30 to 40,000 ventilators that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says he needs, or whether or not he's going to have a lower number because he thinks that's what governors need.
And Yamiche, I want to reiterate again, as we did yesterday, the NewsHour absolutely stands behind your questioning and your work as a solid journalist. We're very proud of you. Finally, Yamiche, you just came from today's briefing on coronavirus. What new is the White House saying today?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Judy, for saying that. And second of all, the president now in the Rose Garden was again talking about ramping up testing. We again got into a little bit of an exchange where I put the question to the president, why is the United States not on par with other countries like South Korea when it comes to per capita testing, meaning that you're testing as many residents as your country has? And the president said, but that was really not an important thing to be focused on, when in fact there are at least some governors and some people with symptoms of the coronavirus who say that testing just is not as available as it could be. But as I noted, the FDA did approve a new test that's going to be getting people results within 5 minutes. So the president's saying in the future we will have more tests and more people will be able to have that. So that's what the president was saying today at the Rose Garden mostly.
But bottom line is they are saying more tests available, as we discussed earlier in the program. There's still a lot of complications around that.
That's right. And there was also, I should say, a little bit of back and forth. The president did have a number of CEOs come up and talk about the fact that they are working on all sorts of equipment and all sorts of inventory and resources to fight the coronavirus. So there was a parade of CEOs from Procter & Gamble and other places. But the president was really underscoring that he was trying his best to do what he can do to get testing widely available. Of course, again, there is criticism of the president still saying that testing still is not as widely available as it is in other countries, including South Korea.
Yamiche Alcindor at the White House for us today. Thank you, Yamiche.
Thanks so much.